Okay. It's been, what, like 4 or 5 days since I've done anything because of the fact that my software, OBS, does not want to work. So I think I've got it fixed. I think I can. Okay. I'm behind. Like, very behind. I was gonna do Indigo Park, but I kid. OBS didn't want to work, okay? So then I fixed it. It seems like it was fixed. I uploaded a video, what, 4 or 5 days ago now? And it was fine. I tried recording multiple different things, it crashed. So, I think it's working now. I think we're back in business. We're gonna have a video a day. Same shenanigans. What the hell is happening up here? It's cut. What are you doing? I grabbed my camera. Why are you? Okay. I don't know what's happening. This is a long intro. We're gonna get into it. We're reacting to more anomaly stuff because of the fact that it's been a while since we've seen any of this. The following footage corresponds to a night vision camera placed in the woods to the northwest of the city in Romania. It's called the Conchu, which is an urban legend. Also, I do want to cover urban legends and SCPs and all that. I need to get to that. I want to get to that. Let me stop yapping and actually watch this because the audio here is kind of low. It's kind of just deers. I don't think there's really much here.
In the forests of Romania, there is a legend that has haunted its inhabitants even more than the case of Vlad the Impaler. In fact, it is a much more rural case, a mixture of a folktale with a macabre event that occurred in 1984. From its closest root in time, during the 80s, much was said about the crimes of Sorin Gheorghiu, a 38-year-old man from the city of Foxani in the Vranța district. This man, of whom only a photograph exists, has no further information regarding his education or known work. Those who did know him, the few neighbors, claim that he was a strange man who apparently worked as a lumberjack deep in the forests of the region. He was someone who raised suspicion about his person at all costs. And precisely, this is what led him to be blamed by the police for a series of disappearances of elderly adults in the city and in its surroundings. The day the authorities decided to investigate him, curiously, Sorin Gheorghiu never appeared again. His house was found completely emptied and intentionally damaged. From that moment, a kind of collective paranoia was generated about the possibility that this man lurked in the area in the following years, when the police effort had already been exhausted and the case was considered closed. However, at the same time, and considering that no trace of the suspicious man was ever found, the legend of Conchu began to circulate and revive. A creature with long limbs that until then had only been recorded in stories and drawings by local residents. A creature known to feed on livestock and wild animals, mimicking
really
their sounds
dope.
to attract them almost voluntarily.
I like that as a concept. Like, this looks really fucking dope. I could sit here and talk all day about this stuff, but let's not.
As a trap.
Also, I need to do a series on cryptids because I would sit here all day and talk about every single cryptid and why I love them so much. Because, sure, they're not real.
In 1998,
But I
a
want
couple of
them
young
to.
people decided to find the trail of Sorin Gheorghiu, whom the police had no intention of continuing to investigate. For
was
this,
their
they
camera.
set up some night cameras near the village of Valea Sari, the only place where the presence of the man was still rumored.
Sorry.
Meanwhile, as the cameras recorded for a couple of days, the boys continued their route and ventured into the forests. There,
That's pretty dope. I'm assuming it's supposed to look like a skull.
they did not take long to find strange monoliths that seemed to warn of the presence of some strange entity,
That's fucking cool, though.
possibly a creature from folklore, which they immediately associated with Conchu.
That's cool, though. Look at how dope that is. And I don't think that is. I think it's the dude's lumberjacks. The lumberjacks.
In addition to this, they found a few cabins in terrible condition, abandoned possibly for more than a century. These sites seem to have been improvised shelters for vagabonds or outright debris in the midst of nature. However, One of them was not really a house, but a huge septic tank that connected to what appeared to be a small rural sewer system.
What? Weird. That's weird looking. Are they gonna find something in here? I think they will. I should probably turn this down. Because I know my like.
Inside is where they came across the most unpleasant surprise, finding a large number of bodies lying in wells full of mud and suspicious material. Some of them seemed completely petrified by the passage of time, while some still showed signs of gaseous decay.
Remember, YouTube, this
Young
isn't real.
people,
This isn't
highly
real.
alarmed,
Don't take down
notified the
video.
police,
Okay.
and from there was no way to obtain information about how the case concluded.
That's cool though. I like that as an idea. This thing was just had this little hideout where it's just taking the bodies. But is it gonna find these people just lurking in its hideout, its little area? Nest per se? Because there's no way they got in here, spent their sweet time photographing everything and didn't make it out. But I'm assuming since we're seeing them, they did.
However, as if there were not enough surprises, when the young people reviewed the images on the cameras, they found the trace of a strange creature.
That's actually pretty
One with
cool.
similar characteristics to Conchao, which had even been lurking near the cabins they were investigating.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It kind of just looks like a giant fleshy spider, to be honest. I don't really see where a head would be unless you want to say it's under here, but that would still be weird. Is this like its back? But where's the head? And I don't know, down here just seems weird because I'd have to rear up to see.
Investigating on those same nights.
I like the design though. Okay, this one's called Trapped in a Tunnel. We're gonna probably watch like one or two more depending on how long they are. And then there'll be another ghost video up later today along with an Elden Ring stream.
Can you imagine the possibility of peacefully driving your car and suddenly entering a loop from which you might never escape? Driving in your car and suddenly realizing that you've been going straight without reaching any destination, noticing how the highway becomes empty and you end up being the only one on a road that leads nowhere? And worse yet, when you think you've entered an ordinary tunnel, you're actually heading into the depths of the earth in a place that hasn't been marked on any map, and no authority has the slightest idea of what place it might be. This story happened to the man you see in the photograph. We only know about his life before this selfie he took in the year 2008. Because currently he is still considered a missing person in the records of the state of Utah, United States. His name, Logan Schoderberg, a man who, at the time of his disappearance, was 48 years old. Both this self-portrait where one can perceive anguish and horror, and the rest of the photographs were found in a drainage outlet, along with the torn clothes Logan was wearing that day. Logan, as usual, drove a significant portion of the US 6 route, crossing the Utah desert in his personal vehicle to visit his sister. This journey was routine for him until Pauline decided to move much further north in the state. So, Logan had to rethink the best route to arrive on time. His sister informed the police that Logan had suffered a stroke not long before his disappearance. After that event, she had repeatedly advised him not to drive such long distances to visit her. According to the medical report, he had some lingering effects and disorientation was becoming more frequent than usual. However, confident in his abilities, on April 11th, he got into his car and informed Pauline that he would visit her after a long time. He assured her that everything would be fine, and with the help of GPS, there would be nothing to worry about if he experienced a crisis and couldn't locate himself.
What?
It was just a matter of following the route marked by the device and adhering to its instructions.
Okay. Except from a radio interview with Pauline Schoenberg discussing the disappearance of her brother. Their interview took place 2 months after the formal notification of his disappearance.
Yes, I had told him so many times not to go out alone after the accident. I don't know if he had any friends looking out for him. After his divorce, I don't know if he managed to recover. He didn't have children, so it was difficult for anyone to warn him not to leave the house so often. I live far away. I would have loved to help him more, but I have my family and job here. There are things you just can't leave behind. But we need to know where he is. If he was kidnapped, we'll pay whatever they ask.
Okay.
But please.
Let's think about this realistically. He is a 48-year-old man. No one's going to be kidnapping him and using him for ransom. Now, if we want to be realistic about this, they could have kidnapped him, stole his organs, and dumped him somewhere. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to say is, he tragically died in this tunnel he got trapped in, because that's what it's looking like. So we're going to go off of that, because that's what it's pointing at.
Bring my brother back safe and sound. He was delicate after his accident.
Analyzing the photos Logan took, initially, some were sent as messages to Pauline. However, due to interference in the mountains in a large tunnel, they remained only on Logan's cell phone along with some of his voice messages. These messages were obtained from both those received by Pauline and those Logan tried to send from the tunnel.
Audio files. Oh.
Hey, Pauline. I'm sending you this audio because I think I've taken the wrong route. I might arrive a few hours later. I don't know why this device didn't give me the right directions, but I'm heading there.
Heading there? Where?
I've been following a path for hours that doesn't lead anywhere. I'm kind of stuck in a very dark tunnel. Hey, I need help.
The following sequence of photos reveals what Logan meant by that never-ending tunnel. They show that the paved road continues through a cavernous and completely empty path, which doesn't match any records of American highways.
Yeah, where would you have
In
gone?
fact, along the entire Interstate 15, which Logan documented in his route, such a tunnel of that length has never existed. However, in the photos, it's noticeable how abruptly the paved road ends and turns into a dirt area, where the tunnel becomes increasingly rocky and uneven. Given the strange and unusual characteristics of the place, and considering the time gap between when Logan took the photos, it can be inferred that the selfie occurred when the gas could have run out, or the car experienced some malfunction after the long journey. Pauline confirmed in the interview that her brother's car was quite old, and he usually had to stop at various points before reaching her home when he visited. With the car completely stopped, Logan continued trying to send messages for help to his sister Pauline. For this, he photographed his car from a distance, where it can be seen that he was possibly trapped in a cave rather than a highway. Without proper ventilation, it is highly likely that Logan began to suffer the consequences of oxygen deficiency, coupled with disorientation caused by darkness, possible underground gases, and the anxiety of being trapped. These are only speculations about a site never found. What drew even more attention was what can be described as a huge cascade of organic material. In it, substances similar to animal viscera are visible, the origin of which was
Are you saying the tunnel is alive? Are we calling the tunnel alive?
impossible to determine since such phenomena were impossible in nature. Therefore, the theory that Logan was probably kidnapped gained more strength, considering the possibility that he may have been sold on the black market for organ smuggling.
I don't think
In
so.
this way, that photograph could be understood as some kind of storage. However, the tunnel photos remain another mystery to be clarified, with ideas being tossed around, such as it being some sort of setup to intimidate family members. This would explain why the cell phone survived among his clothes.
As of now, a strange cave has been discovered on the outskirts of a town of Vernon, Utah, which is consistent with the images sent by Logan. However, it turned out to be smaller and there is no trace of the waterfall. Weird. So they're like entities and not actual caves, okay? 4 impossible stories by Anomaly. One, living in the mountains.
On the border between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan rises a mountain range called Gora Kurumdi, which has been in constant territorial conflict between the governments of both countries. In the West, little is known about this dispute, while in Asia, it is recognized for the impenetrability to any foreign entity in the conflict. From the information that is gradually leaked, it is known that amidst the mountains, a micronation has formed, impossible to delineate due to the secrecy of its political leaders. Information about its possible existence dates back to 1756, when the nation was mentioned in one of Jean-Jacques Rousseau's texts concerning the jurisdictional freedom of peoples. It wasn't until 1997 when a daring Kazakh photographer and amateur climber ventured into the Gora Kurumdi mountains and managed to capture the only 2 images publicly known of this place. The conditions of the inhabitants appear more than deplorable. According to the photographer, who could not stay there for more than 10 minutes, he observed
something
men
out of a movie. This looks like a movie set. This is cool though, because it's like realistically these would not hold up very long unless you like chiseled it out the side of the mountain. But like still, that's cool looking.
Women and children, living in open cells on the steep slopes of the mountains. Some of these structures penetrated into extensive and vertical caves, devoid of light and minimal sanitary conditions. One reason the photographer couldn't stay longer was that, in his words, when they noticed his presence, they emerged from their places and began climbing among the rocks, gradually approaching him in hunched positions. They seemed to be crawling more than actually climbing, and communication among them was closer to noises than any type of mostly structured language. Even more curious was that many of them, in their attempt to reach him, fell into the void, and the rest remained unmoved. It was as if none of them cared about losing a family member or friend in such an accident. Of the few bodies he managed to see several feet below him, some only observed those who had fallen, smelled them, and continued with what they were doing. After this, the photographer decided to escape quickly, making sure that none of these strange people were following him to his lodging. The 2 incredible photographs to be tremendously enlightening to understand how isolated they have been for so many years and why they have not allowed formal contact between the 2 surrounding nations. Possibly, the photographer would not have left there alive if he had decided to establish greater contact with them.
Number 2, shadows.
This strange occurrence took place in a coastal warehouse in the Chinese city of Qinhuangdao. Both night security guards and daytime workers at the facility have witnessed the appearance of a disturbing shadowy figure. Security cameras have captured him very few times, with impressive clarity. Inside the warehouse, those who have seen him claim that he seems to simply stroll around, mostly at night. Following these sightings, some have checked among the many boxes stored inside and found them surprisingly scattered on the floor, with cracks and marks from severe impacts. A phenomenon often repeated worldwide would not be so noteworthy if it weren't for the following screenshot from an outdoor security camera, where in broad daylight, That dark figure is clearly seen staring directly at the camera without
but
any
shit
other
like that's
reaction.
Cool, though. I don't really find that scary. That's just cool looking. Number 3, seeking the end of the backrooms. I still want to cover the backrooms.
The following story begins with the recording of a drone in the year 2010 in the Polish city of Krakow. In this photograph, there is a large hole in the backyard of what appears to be a house in the Bieżanów neighborhood, south of the city. At first glance, this could have been related to some excavation for repairs to underground water pipes, a common occurrence in case of pipe breakages. However, none of that had been recorded at that time. On the contrary, it had surprisingly been the work of a single person, Agnieszka, a 49-year-old woman who neighbors had seen arriving in the neighborhood
No.
with numerous tools for digging the soil.
I don't believe that.
A few months before the drone's recording, one of the neighbors photographed Agnieszka fiercely digging the soil from the depths. With a strange smile and obstinacy to the concerns of her worried neighbors, she continued relentlessly. According to nearby accounts, her family was very concerned about her, as she had recently been admitted to a psychiatric hospital after a psychosis outbreak.
Even if.
On that occasion, Agnieszka was obsessed with an idea she couldn't get out of her head.
The backrooms.
Beneath her home existed a world that she had repeatedly seen in her dreams. A world where all those who had fallen to another plane of reality inexplicably lay. She warned everyone to be extremely careful with the walls, floor, and anything a person could lean on. Probably, more than one would end up crossing the boundaries of the world, and end up in a dimension from which escape would be impossible.
Why would you want to go there?
For Agnieszka, her backyard was like a huge graveyard of all those who had ever tried to escape. A kind of purgatory that she was determined to find. This entire story was dismissed as nothing more than this woman's delirium until one day in May 2010, when her disappearance was reported. The police quickly headed to her home, where they found that hole in the backyard, so deep that it required a specialized team to reach the bottom. Strangely, it seemed deeper than what a normal person would be able to dig, and from its depths, a striking red luminescence could be seen, growing more intense as it descended until suddenly diminishing its brightness and disappearing. Faced with such danger, the police and rescue teams decided to introduce a very long rope along with a camera to assess the situation. What they found sent shivers down their spines.
Okay.
That simple excavation had reached an area of inexplicable characteristics, a kind of very dark cavern with a faint reddish luminescence. In that place, some petrified bodies were observed, as if they were semi-buried humanoid sculptures.
Oh.
A quick study of the photographs revealed that it was not an archaeological trace, as that area had been excavated 100 years ago for the construction of the neighborhood. On the other hand, caverns of such magnitude would have already been a huge problem for the maintenance of the sector's soil. This place defied logic, and there were no traces of Mrs. Agnieszka either. She was never seen again. After all, that place matched the strange description she gave of a kind of cemetery for people lost in that strange dimension, parallel to the real world.
Don't know if I'm buying it though. It's pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but I feel like she just saw the back rooms and had a
Competitive
bit of a
fishing
breakdown.
has always sought an unbeatable winner, often focusing on who can
Fishes,
catch the
also I gotta say
largest,
that.
rarest, or most elusive fish.
Four fishes.
While records in terms of size generate the most interest in this sport, most of the time, it involves well-known species characterized by widespread interest. However, nature sometimes holds strange and repulsive surprises in places frequented during summer or vacations. This enormous and deformed fish was caught by a man whose name is unknown in the town of Prairie du Chien in the state of Wisconsin.
You.
After briefly going viral on the internet, circulating among forums of amateur fishermen. The images reached expert marine
I don't want to
biologists
say like
who were
parasites,
perplexed by
bloating?
its curious
What is
form.
wrong with this?
They suggested the possibility that it might be a mutation caused by chemical agents. During the discussion,
I don't know.
significant criticism arose regarding the state of the Mississippi River, where users claimed to have found other strangely overdeveloped creatures. Unfortunately, no evidence was provided to support these claims.
Weird, was that it? That fish one was short, okay. That's the end of this. Okay. I don't really have an outro except for like, I'll be posting a video again tonight about ghosts. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I wanted to do another ghost video tonight, so there'll be that. Elden Ring DLC drops tonight. I'll be streaming that. I wanted to make a video about the Valorant beta for console. And I think that's really it. Have a good day, good night, or good afternoon. I'll see you lovely bastards in the next one. I don't know. I don't really have an intro. I need to make one.